Hi, thanks for tuning in. Today I want to do a runway reactions video on the latest Chanel Cruise 2021-22 show. I think this was released at the beginning of May. It was like a 10-minute video presentation of a a runway, but there was no audience, at least not that I could tell. I haven't done one of these videos in a while. It's mostly because last fall winter season I wasn't fully in this whole fashion runway consumption mode. I saw the initial video. I had some thoughts. So I thought it would be fun to share my thoughts, but also hear some of yours about this particular show, because I think it's pretty interesting. If you're tuning in for the first time, hi, I'm Katie. I like to do these luxury fashion videos here on YouTube. I share hauls and reviews, but at the end of the day, I share my journey so that we can all mindfully curate our own collections. So if you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment down below with your favorite or maybe least favorite part today. Your support really means a lot to me. So I have my trusty iPad here, and I'm going to react to some components of this show. I'll highlight the pieces that I think are really interesting or might be like the it piece from the runway, and then I'll share my overall thoughts at the end of the video. As always, there will be chapters at the bottom of the screen so that you can always click forward to a section that you're more interested in. All right, so let's get started. So immediately my reaction was the setting. The setting is absolutely stunning. It's so grand. Initially, I didn't know if this was like a set that they built or if it was like a real place. That's how sort of sublime it seemed, but my understanding is it is a real place in Provence. And it looks like the first look is coming down. You see this just grand, walkway with multiple sets of stairs. But I was surprised that the first look was all black, because this is a cruise collection, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And then the next look is white and black, and then the next look is all white. So I was like, oh, it's a very black and white theme that I wasn't really expecting. These fishnet tights are very interesting. These feather headpieces are also really interesting with these full-on dark looks, really. And they felt very kind of formal, less cruisy to me. You know what I mean? And then this is where I started to get that overall sense of oh, everything seems real kind of grunge, almost punk. And I'm like, that's interesting. This bag with the fringe, I feel like it might take off, but I do think it's going to be a very seasonal piece. These pants with these starbursts and everything, these pants were interesting. I'm not going to lie, as soon as I saw those, I thought about the Dior women's wear when they did the whole, honestly, a lot of the Dior women's collections to me look very similar season after season. I can't quite distinguish when there was one season versus the other, but I do think there was a season where they did a whole kind of celestial theme, or maybe it was a zodiac theme. I don't follow Dior collections as closely, but it reminded me of Dior. I was like, oh, that looks like something Dior would do. So I was a little surprised that that was something in the Chanel show. And there's more of that motif. And this tank top, very interesting. I'm getting much more 90s vibes as well. This t-shirt with her face on it is very interesting to me as well. Seems really rebellious for Chanel. Not that Chanel herself wasn't rebellious, but seemed really rebellious. And this is about the time where I'm like, it's interesting. I'm missing like the color, you know, the color that usually is part of a cruise show. I'm seeing like lots of accessories. There's of course lots of hair accessories again. I'm not feeling the wedge shoe. I'll try to pause when there's a better shot of the shoe, but I'm not feeling the wedge shoe. And I think the last runway reactions video, I shared my personal dislike for wedges, which is why, like here, we can see like it's a wedge heel. And I'm just not a huge fan of wedge heels in general. I think they did this for the Métier d'Art collection as well, and I'm just not a fan. I think part of me sort of appreciates that Chanel's like really bringing back the fishnet tights. Not that I like had a burning desire to wear them, but I do think it adds like an extra thing to be able to wear on your bottoms that aren't like leggings, that aren't sheer tights, and that aren't opaque tights. I mean, no one was saying you can't wear fishnets, but maybe it's, you know, when it sometimes comes back into trend, you feel a little less weird about wearing them. So I sort of like that part of it, but I'm still really missing the color, to be honest. I mean, there's some blue in this outfit. Those fringe details are not my favorite, but that's a personal thing. I'm not huge into fringe. I like some clothes having them, like I like distressed denim having some fringe, but when fringe is like all over, I do feel like it's a little messy looking. I liked this. I liked this outfit. It did feel really 90s to me, but I did like the white long sleeve, really tight long sleeve underneath with like this really beautiful strap on this mesh dress. Looks so cute, and you can see like the CCs through it. This is one of my favorites from the show. It just really stood out to me. To the point that I was like, oh, I think I might like be interested in looking into that. I just don't think I just don't think I would feel comfortable trying to pull that off, if that makes sense, with my body shape. That's just not the most flattering. But I did like the overall sort of look. It's one of my favorite looks from this show. The prints overall are like really graphic. I thought that was very interesting as well. Usually I like to stay away from super graphic prints because I feel like they can be very seasonal. This fringe skirt is interesting though. Oh, and this is a tank top version of that dress. So once I saw there was a tank top version, I was like, ooh, I might be able to wear the tank top version a little bit more than the dress version. But I do have to say, I don't think that's like the most, it's not a piece that's going to have the most longevity in my closet if I do get it. Which is why I'm probably going to convince myself not to get it. But I feel like it might be one of the it pieces, like the iconic notable pieces from this collection, because of how kind of visually recognizable, how visually stunning it is. I think it's just a really cool look. I don't know if it comes with the t-shirt or if you have to get like a t-shirt separately, but I do really like this overall look. I don't know if I could really pull it off, this whole look, because it's a look, but I do like this mesh tank top. It's like the one main thing that has stood out from this collection for me. I love this stars background though. It contrasts a lot with this kind of natural cave, but I thought this was an interesting look too. I guess you're getting a little bit more cruisy with like the netting, the knitted, but I thought the leather tie kind of necklace was interesting. I liked this look. I liked this whole look, to be honest. The sweater and the pants, I liked the set. I feel like it's really cute. It has that drop shoulder, slightly balloon sleeve that I like, and the knit bottoms I think also have a slight flare. I thought the Chanel logo was part of the sweater, and then I realized that it was actually a belt that was added on top. So, I mean, not terrible, but I sort of liked the look with the belt on it. But I really like this overall ensemble. I feel like it's one of the more wearable pieces from this collection, and compared to the tank top that I mentioned earlier, this one is a piece that would have more longevity in your closet if you were to get it. But I really, really like this one. And the chain detail coming up, like it's really cool. This mini dress is really cute, just personally not something that I could pull off. Also that like garter card case thing was interesting, to say the least. This bag though, let me see if they do another angle. Here we go. This bag seems really special. I can't tell if it's sequins or if it's studs. I do think it's studs, and it looks like it's a kind of a softer, like less structured bag. This definitely stands out to me. It looks cute. Now again, it doesn't scream cruise to me, but it does look very cute for like a bag itself. It's also a very small bag. Might be beaded, you know, those knitted kind of beaded bags. This is a really cute look. Again, though, that fringe detail at the bottom is just not my favorite. This look was really cute. I love balloon sleeves on anything, really, and I really liked that look. I just would not have any single place to really wear that. Oh, those lip rings. Okay. I think that was like the first time I really noticed them. There might have been a few other looks that walked by with it on and I just didn't notice. She's definitely one of those, though, that angle was one of those moments where I recognized that there were these lip rings, and they're very interesting. I think it's really different, and maybe that's going to be the next trend. Probably not one that I participate in. I don't have anything against lip rings or anything. I just feel like it would be really uncomfortable. I talk a lot and all of that, you know, so it just doesn't seem that practical. Also, I mean, we still technically wear masks. You can't really see it unless you take your mask off. So there's that part. Also, if you have like lip products on and you put it on after, like, won't the lip products get on it? Like, I'm just thinking about these general like hygiene issues, you know? So not a fan. If it does become a thing, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of places that will make like cheaper versions of it for you to like try without having to spend like $500 or $600 on this accessory. But I thought it was very, very interesting. I did like the makeup overall, like the slightly darker rimmed eyeliner and this like grungy look with the makeup. The side swept hair, I know it goes with the look, it adds a lot of mood, but side swept hair is not something that my face can really accommodate. So I don't go for it, but I thought it was interesting, like the really deep side swept hair. I think, yeah, some of these looks were, I mean, this jacket, look at those embellishments, but like not something that I would, you know, fork out the money to get. I don't have that money to fork out too, like, let's be real. But I loved the sleeves on this, the floral sleeves. Oh, and I love the shape of that dress overall. It's just the waist is a bit dropped. And I have a really short waist, so this is very particular to me. But when I look at dresses, I look for slight baby doll or A-line. Like, I look for dresses that have the hems, not the hem, that have the waistline pretty high, because my waist is sort of short. And that one I noticed had a bit of a dropped waist, in which case I would look really ill-proportioned. So I can't really pull that off, but I love the overall silhouette of that dress. So I think this is a different dress. Also has those beautiful sleeves, also slightly dropped waist, and then that motif continues into this off-the-shoulder dress. All three of those silhouettes are dresses that I don't really gravitate towards. I also felt like there was nothing particularly notably Chanel about it. If you look closely, there might be like Chanel like logos on it, but I thought that was interesting. I feel like these pieces, these pants, or maybe it's like a corset you add on top, are beautiful with those like lavender embroidery. So, so pretty. And of course, you know, there needs to be a feather piece, because would it be a Chanel show without a feather piece? Oh, and then I was like kind of surprised there was another feather piece actually. And then you see the lip ring again. These bags with like the stripe through them are very interesting. That apricot color was also really interesting. This dress is stunning with it kind of looks like a little bit like a watercolor or like a stained glass. So now I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see like a little bit of that color you sort of expect from cruise. This outfit's really flowy, also something that I would sort of expect in a cruise collection. So I was like, okay, like it's peeking through a little bit. I still think it's still like a kind of like a graphic kind of angry print almost, you know, like the floral embroideries were really like lovely, flower, sweet. This black and white print still seems to be a little more like on that punk side, you know what I mean? That graphic, like I'm too cool for you kind of like look of like this camellia pattern, so I thought that was interesting as well. This I feel like would be beautiful as like a cover up on the beach, but like I'm not at that level where I can get, you know, beach cover ups from Chanel. So I think we're getting to the point where they start sharing like, or where it's like the evening dresses, like the more of the full length pieces, that I think I always say like I don't really have anywhere to wear these. And there's another piece with a jacket. Oh, she has an interesting belt on. It looks like it says like Chanel right across. Oh, this white gown also looks amazing. Looks really comfortable to wear, you know, if you're on holiday. But I feel like that white would be so like a bit scary to maintain. This dress seems really wearable. Again, it doesn't necessarily scream Chanel to me, but it does seem very wearable from this collection. There's more of this like crochet cape again, and I think that's sort of the nod to general kind of cruise collection, like beachwear needs. But again, it's black, and I'm like, this is so interesting that the whole like collection is really black. It's not what I expected to see from Chanel. There's more crochet. I feel like those crochet capes would be really heavy as well because of the materials that are used. They can be really light, but if you use like a cotton yarn, it can get very heavy. But you know, if you have a super yacht and you're going on holiday, you're throwing yourself like a birthday party on your yacht, like, yeah, it seems beautiful to wear for that. I think this is the last look, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and then all the models are walking out, and then they march together, they line up. Oh, there's a second layer. And then I was a little sad about the shadow because it gives a cool effect, but it's a little difficult to see some of the looks, you know, like some of them get really overshadowed. And then they let out white doves. I think it was meant to be like a symbol of hope, probably, but I was really confused about that part. I didn't do too many pauses in this one. I know I usually like stop and like point out a specific piece, but I wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more flowing. Otherwise this video might be like 45 minutes long. There is like a pink fuzzy bag that I saw. I'll insert a picture. That looks really interesting. I can't tell if it's velvet or if it's like actually like fur or like, how they make those like shearling bags too, so I couldn't really tell exactly what the material is, but it looked like it was fuzzy, and it was this beautiful like light pink color. It caught my eye. But overall, it's not really a collection for me, I don't think. It's a lot of black for a cruise collection. And for those of you who might not be familiar, at least my understanding of cruise collections is that like they came about, so usually there was like a spring, summer, and a fall, winter season, right? Makes sense, because like spring, summer is usually warmer, lighter layers, and fall, winter is like colder, so you wear thicker layers. And then cruise came about because the clientele, the kind of affluent clientele that was buying luxury ready-to-wear would often go on a vacation or go on holiday to a warmer location in the colder months. So like in like November, December, I think December, January is like usually when they would go on these holidays. And that's why they would be looking for like beachwear or things to wear while they're on holiday that are lighter, so they're not part of the fall winter collection, and actually needed something that's fitting for their holiday destination. And that's why there's this cruise collection that comes out, in the dead of winter, at least for the northern hemisphere. And because it's associated with the holidays, at least I associate cruise collections with more colors and lighter layers, and everything's a little bit more flowy. That's like stereotypically how I would characterize a cruise collection. And I think this collection in particular deviates a bit from that. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it's just not something that I think is really for me. Who knows? It's possible that in the actual like leather goods, small leather goods, and things like that that come to the boutiques as they're part of cruise might have more color to them, and it might just be that the runway pieces were a lot more specific. So that's possible, but I'm not quite sure how the rest of the collection gets built out. Like a lot of times I feel like they're pretty similar to the color scheme that's been on the runway. But that's something to look out for when the collection actually lands. I also either read or watched or something like that very briefly that I believe there was some actual punk influence on this particular collection. I think it might have been a movie or a show or something that was in black and white, and that's why this show is predominantly in black and white. That's why some angles are also in black and white versus some that are in color. I can fully understand that's where the inspiration has come from. Just as a whole, the kind of punk grunge aesthetic is not one that I have very easily adopted or folded into my own style. That's why I think it's not really a collection for me. But there are some notable pieces like that mesh dress, like that mesh tank top, like that two-piece, the sweater and knit pants like set that I think is really cute. There are some pieces that stand out in my mind, but overall, like, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a collection that I am like clamoring to get my hands on, and I'm like really dying to try to like score a piece. And I'm okay with that. There was lots of interesting headpieces, like I think there was like feathers that were like in like a pin, but feathers that also kind of draped down into your hair. With the side swept hair, you could really see the impactful like statement earrings that a lot of them had. There were a lot of hair clips that I feel like Chanel like unlocked their potential in hair pieces recently, in the recent years at least, where they've really been like pushing, or they really included a lot of hair pieces with every collection. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. It was beautiful to look at overall, but it wasn't one that I could really see myself wearing. I have a general question for you guys to just see if I'm like the only one, because we're talking about the runway. I don't know if you follow Chanel on any social media or on YouTube or anything like that, but usually when they have a runway, there's usually an entire campaign. So there's like a whole slew of content that gets released in association with this show, with a particular show. And with this one in particular, there was like a, right after the session, there was like a mini concert or something. And then usually like a few hours later or like the day after, they will release like a whole bunch of interviews that are done with ambassadors or friends of the house for them to, you know, talk about the show. So I didn't watch any of those, and I'm curious to see if you guys find that content helpful. Like I didn't watch them because usually there's very little information that I actually get about the collection. It's not like it's an interview with the designer, him or herself. And I feel like there's very little insight that I'm actually able to get. There's very little information that I find particularly valuable that I couldn't have already said to you right now. Like I didn't watch any of those, but I'm pretty sure someone has said that it was beautiful, it was bold, it was powerful. They loved that there was some grunge and punk in there to be a little bit like not so feminine. Like I can already think about the words that they're going to be saying in that, so there's no need for me to have to watch that content. So I don't particularly find it helpful, but I was just curious if anybody else feels that way, or if there is something that you like about those. All right, so those are my runway reactions of the latest Chanel Cruise 2021-22 show. What are your thoughts on this collection? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Are there certain things that you think are going to be really trendy? What are your thoughts on that interesting lip accessory? I'm very curious, really. And also, of course, your thoughts on like the interview content that comes out afterwards. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down below or head on over to Instagram and I'd be happy to help however I can. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of your feedback and support. If you like this kind of content and you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I post new fashion related videos every Sunday and Wednesday. So until next time,